I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fuck me in the ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Yesterday I talked about a good Dreamworks film. Now we need to talk about one of their worst. But hey everyone, it's Donji Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new rant. And this rant is gonna be for 2007's goddamn motherfucking B movie. Yeah. This is one I really hate. But I'll say where I'd rank it for bad DreamWorks films in a little bit. Because I'm going to say the plot first. I need to see the plot first. I don't want to make this too long. So, the plot of B movie is Jerry Seinfeld, who I love Jerry Seinfeld. I love the show Seinfeld, one of the funniest shows of all time. He voices a bee named Barry Benson. He graduates from college and finds he's only gonna have one job for his entire life, and is upset by this. So, the next day, he joins his team of pollen jogs responsible for bringing honey and pollination of the flowers to visit the world outside the hive. So, once he arrives in their hometown of Manhattan, he's saved one day by a florist played by Renee Zellweger, who is in a few DreamWorks films and has an interesting track record. Her main DreamWorks roles have been in their two worst ones. Playing the love interest in both of them. Played the love interest in Shark Tale, their number one worst film, which I need to rant on someday, and voiced the love interest in this. Her name is Vanessa Bloom, and so he breaks the bee law to not talk to humans to thank Vanessa. So him and Vanessa become friends, and they discover that humans exploit bees to sell the honey they produce. So, what is Barry's solution? Sue the human race. And not give a fuck about the consequences it's going to cause. And not think it through. So as for my reaction, yeah, this was going to be reviewed someday, and that someday is today. Jerry Seinfeld, I love him in the show Seinfeld. It's one of my favorite comedy shows of all time. And I love some of the cast members of this. I like Matthew Broderick. I like John Goodman. I like Patrick Warburton. But I hate this film. And for all these reasons below, you see why I kind of view it as DreamWorks' second worst film behind Shark Tale. This movie's not as bad as Shark Tale, but it's close to it. For one, the main character pretty much just comes off as an annoying asshole in a lot of scenes. Has this unrealistic plot that would not work in real life. Yeah, I know this is a kid's movie, but not even a lot of unrealistic kids' movies plots are this idiotic. And it's even horribly written in general. It's like, because this was around the same year a film from Pixar called Ratatouille came out, and that had a pretty silly concept. A rat befriending a human and teaching the human how to cook. But, you want to know why everyone loved Ratatouille? Because of this. The film felt very real. It didn't feel like an animated kids film. It actually felt like a real movie with actually some mature themes. Like, like once it's revealed that Remy's the one helping Linguini cook and Linguini exposes the truth, you'd expect all the chefs to obviously just back him up. No! They actually think he's crazy and they walk out on him. Now, the female lead in that film does return, but the rest of them don't come back. So they actually pulled off something really mature. In that moment, it actually shows reality of what would really happen in this scenario. People would think you're crazy and all, and they'd be disappointed that you actually don't have the standards they thought you did. And another thing too, and also whenever they interact, Linguini and Remy don't have any conversations together, and they actually show that from a human's perspective, rats still sound like normal rats, and they don't really, their interactions are silent, and how Remy interacts with Linguini he kind of controls him by pulling on his hair to teach him how to cook. That is their interactions. In a way, and it actually does become a very relatable bond they have in the film. And another thing, I do really like the whole subplot, and while Remy does kind of save the restaurant when a critic that pretty much costed them a star returns for another meal and another try, the critic gives a great review of the place while keeping Remy's identity secret, but the antagonist of that film had found out about him and the rats cooking despite having been sanitized and cleaned of any germs. And realistically, because rats are a health hazard to restaurants, the restaurant closed down. But there were still some good outcomes because the critic ended up opening a new restaurant bistro, and Remy still got his dream to cook in a way. So it was somewhat of a bittersweet ending, but also somewhat of a happy ending too. And even Remy's rat family came to his understanding as well. And the other thing, it didn't just feel like an anime movie. It actually felt like a real movie from Pixar in a way, especially with the direction from Brad Bird. B movie, it tries to have a concept, but a bee talking to a human is way too ridiculous. And how was this film made? Well, the development of B movie began in 2003. Steven Spielberg had approached DreamWorks Animation CEO Jeffrey Katzenberg, and after Jerry Seinfeld had also asked him to make an animated film featuring insects. Jerry Seinfeld had spent a week in Los Angeles working on the movie. A system called HP Hello got installed in Jerry Seinfeld's office in New York, and enabled him to work on the film and interact between the coasts. And the reason why Seinfeld set the film in New York is because it was kind of the Tigris and Euphrates of comedy, and Katzenberg was the main reason why the film was being made. The budget was $450 million, and Spielberg had actually appeared in 2 live-action trailers for the film in November 2006 or 2007. When back when this was first advertised, we first saw these teasers of them trying to shoot the movie in live action and always ending in disaster. And I remember those trailers. And you know something? Those trailers were actually funnier than the actual film. Maybe if this was I wish this was a live action film, in a way. If it was about them trying to make this movie in live action, and all the failure attempts were actually funny, kind of like a throwback to corny kids films in a way. It could be a little jab at those, but then at the end they'd give up and they'd just make the film a cartoon, and the cartoon became successful, and that's how the movie ended. Them having the realization they can't make it a live action, that would have been a better. I wish that was the movie instead. I wish that would have been an honestly better movie. How these live action teasers present, they probably could have made a better movie that way, and it actually could have been funny because these teasers were funnier than what we got. Those teasers I liked. And they were promotional live-action skits surrounding production of the movie. Then, after the film was officially shot and advertised, the real film that is, B-Movie would premiere in New York City on October 25th, 2007, and be released in theaters in the United States on November 2nd, 2007. It did not do too well at the box office, with $293 million worldwide on the $150 million budget, and reasonably got mixed reviews from critics. While they liked the humor in the voice cast, but they criticized the plot and the lack of originality. But it does have a cult base. Not because of the film itself, but because of a bunch of internet memes that happened in 2016, where they would lampoon the film's premise, script, and celebrity cameos. And that's really the only reason why it's a cult base, and nothing else. Let's get on with the bad qualities in the story, how B-movie goes, and why I don't like B-movie, and why I think the film sucks. Because the thing is, why was this really even made at all? Like, it's like they just try to repeat a story about nothing, like with Seinfeld, and that worked in Seinfeld. You know, because Seinfeld was fresh, in a way, and there was still kind of somewhat of a purpose. It was kind of about Jerry playing a fictional version of himself, and dealing with the antics of his, like, 3 neighbors and friends, or ex-girlfriend, and often some of the things they get involved in. Like, you know, Jerry Seinfeld still is a stand-up in this one, a fictional version of himself, that is, and he had a neighbor named Kramer who would break into his fridge and steal his food occasionally, or cause even more antics in his apartment. George would often also show up his antic, or try some immature schemes, like, in a way, and there was also Elaine who would often rave about the problems about her life, and that's the thing, too, like, and they have another thing in common. Barry does some bad things, but Jerry and the crew in Seinfeld also did do some bad things in the show. But the difference was, unlike Barry, Jerry and the gang actually got comeuppance for their actions. You know, like, realistic comeuppance for their actions. Like, you know, Jerry did get comeuppance for the time he stole that old lady's rye bread, or when he drugged his fiancé to play with his girlfriend's dead father's toys, and invited George and Elaine to do the same thing when they heard about what he did. And of course, like, George often at times, or Kramer at times, has even been arrested. Elaine has even got arrested a few times in the show. Like, yeah, heck, even the show ended with them all getting arrested for some of their antics and stuff, and or really just breaking a Samaritan law. But a lot of witnesses that were there for their bad deeds came to the trial, and then they got sentenced to jail for a year. Barry gets really no comeuppance for some of the bad things he does do at all. Like, yeah, I get he has a realization when the flowers start dying, but it's not much of a comeuppance. Like, this is a movie really also about nothing, but except not funny, pointless, and really meandering. Right there, like, it's like this was greenlit by someone who probably ate a whole jar of honey with a spoon and, hey, let's make a heavy film about beast. I'm gonna eat this honey now. Probably like that. And once again, why couldn't we have just had the live action concept? That would have been, because that actually would have been funny. Right there. And the movie doesn't know what its target audience is, because it has some pretty dark references to some stuff that kids probably don't even know about, or there's crazy plot turns and jokes that fall flat on their face. And the animation, I guess, is fine. I mean, it is better animation than Shark Tale, I'll admit. The animation's not as nightmarish as Shark Tale, but the animation does look a little cheap at times with the humans, and the tripe is just lacking a lot of regards and an inane story, and the bullshit from the get-go. And the jokes you get here, except from Patrick Warburton's character, the rest of the jokes from or maybe Matthew Brock's character, because Matthew Brock's character was actually pretty decent. I'll get to Matthew Brock's character in a bit when I'm talking about the story. But the jokes are old, and most of them are just not funny. They've gone for some pretty colors and a few visual gags, but other than that, not much else is funny. So, how do we start off the story of B-Movie? So, our lead character, well, before the actual movie does start, we see the Dreamworks logo from the 2000s, and this version has Barry flying and bugging the Dreamworks guy, stings him, and he falls off, and Barry takes the spot on the moon and then pretty much laughs about what he did, and the Dreamworks logo then shows up, and that's how our movie kicks off. Like, don't they reference in B-Movie, you sting someone, you die, but why did Barry not die when he stunned the Dreamworks guy and seemed perfectly fine? So this logo makes no sense, and Barry basically probably caused injury to some random dude and basically laughed when sitting on the moon. In a way, because apparently I guess the creators thought that was going to be funny. But honestly, this just makes me already not like this main character, knowing exactly how this character is going to be. But then the actual movie starts off, and Barry Benson is our idealistic honeybee who apparently can talk to humans for some weird reason that they never explain, why the bees can talk to humans. And he has now graduated from all school, apparently 3 days of certain schools, and then 3 days of college. Literally only 3 days of college. Is now going to enter the highest honey's making workforce called Hunnix Industries with his best friend Adam Flayman, voiced by Matthew Broderick. And you know, if they really wanted to make this animated really much, then this character from Matthew Broderick actually was not bad. You know, like, when watching a film, like, I don't know why this guy can't be the main character. Like, this character was actually decently pretty likable. You know, like, and Matthew Broderick does a pretty good job voicing Adam. Like, I actually didn't think Adam was a bad character. Like, I don't know why this guy could have been the main character and not Barry. Because this guy definitely felt much more smarter at times, especially whenever he calls out Barry for his foolish decisions, and actually did have a point in a lot of the stuff Barry does. And actually had some sense of how things really go. But anyway, either way, like, Barry's excited to be working, but then his ambitious attitude that emerges when he discovers he's only going to have one job for the rest of his life. So you'll just work us to death? We'll sure try, and then... And of course, so he can't change his job once it's picked. It's stuck with him forever. So then one day, Barry and Adam, after leaving the orientation, see these pollen jogs returning with a bunch of pollen that they collect from flowers outside the hive in the real world. And they see Barry messing with two girls, and they offer to take Barry with them if he's being enough, and Barry lies saying he is, but Adam clearly tries to point out he's not being enough, clearly. And of course, then his parents think he's going to be some stir that night, and it kind of comes to this bit of a debate. And then, of course, when Barry goes on his first pollen gathering expedition the next day, I don't know, one of them, the official leader of the pollen jogs, the one in charge of supervising them, is voiced by the late Rip Torn, and it was nice to hear definitely nice to hear late Rip Torn, who was pretty much the commander of Men in Black in the first two Men in Black films, voiced in Hercules. It was nice to hear him, and I do miss Rip Torn. But Barry goes on with them the next day. And Barry then gets lost in the rain because eventually some pollen jogs that he is with see these tennis balls, and Barry lands on one of them, gets stuck, and a tennis game that happens with him still stuck in the ball, and then the ball gets lost, and then he gets lost, like, goes in for more mishaps, ends up in a person's car, and then he gets lost in the rain, and then he ends up in the apartment of the two tennis players from earlier, who are our human love interest, Vanessa Bloom, and her boyfriend, Ken, Patrick Warburton's character. He ends up trapped in her house because the window's closed. And while, like, Ken is showing this resume brochure to his friends, Barry thinks the light's a sun, and he tries to fly it, but hits it and falls in guacamole. Vanessa's boyfriend, Ken, sees that one of his friends is about to eat the chip with Barry on it, immediately stops him from doing so. And then, of course, attempts to kill him, but Vanessa stops him from doing so and puts Barry under a glass, and you find out Ken's allergic to bees, but she barely sounds like she really seems to care all that much when he says that. And when he says, you know, I'm allergic to them, that thing could kill me. Which is true, because if someone who's allergic to bees doesn't have an EpiPen with them around that time, you can understand why they'd get freaked out seeing a bee, because if a bee gets a little nervous and stings them, they could die. If all Vanessa says is, why is his life any less value than yours? And, like, regardless, like, of course, like, in order to let Barry out the window, she rips Ken's resume brochure, which she's clearly sad about. And this is where I just start feeling bad for the guy throughout the film, because more problems that they pretty much both end up causing more problems for him. And then she lets Barry out the window. And another thing, like, about this whole thing, instead of ripping his brochure, like, why don't you just open the brochure and then put the glass under it that way and not wreck it? You know, like, I'm pretty sure that brochure looks a little big enough to support the glass. You didn't need to rip it. And of course, like that, and I can bet Ken probably worked a lot of hours making that brochure. Because I'm pretty sure brochures take a while to make. So you can see why he's sad that Vanessa basically rips his hard work. Like, you didn't need to rip it. Like, seriously. Ugh, man. And of course, the thing is, like, once you first meet Barry, like, at first he starts off decent, but then when he meets the Pawn Jogs, he starts showing what a fucking idiot he is when you first meet him, because he of course thinks he's fit to be one of them, even though Adam clearly tries to say he's not, because he clearly doesn't look fit enough to be out there. He has no experience, and this shows when he ends up stuck on a tennis ball and gets separated from the jocks and breaks B lost by talking to humans, which the bees are not allowed to do. And so, another thing, how in the world are these bees able to talk to humans? Like, you never see how they have the ability to talk to humans. They never explain it. Like, so shouldn't we get an explanation of why they can talk to humans in the first place? And the thing, like, you'd expect, especially if this was written by a guy who did a show called Seinfeld, you think this would be this would be pretty creative and actually have a bit of Seinfeld elements in here, but they don't really feel any of that stuff. Like, you get either a courtroom half, and then imagine being a kid that doesn't know anything about courtroom dramas yet. So that's hard to understand the whole court stuff, and it's hard to even understand the plot too that way. And what's also silly here is these interactions with the humans and the bees in the courtroom scenes, and they're discussing the whole honey lawsuit. Nothing about it was really funny, even though it was over the top and unrealistic, and sometimes I'm all in for unrealistic stuff in movies and over the top stuff in movies, but the way they do this over the top and unrealistic stuff just comes off as corny and just lazy. And another subplot too, like the whole Vanessa Barry romance subplot was not engaging. They were not really that good of a couple, and their chemistry was not even that great at times. And honestly, Vanessa already has a boyfriend that she basically throws away for a bee that's not even going to live for several weeks. And some are going to say, but they're only friends. Nah. You can tell there's probably some hints of romance between them. And heck, even Adam, like, jokingly references that when he's telling his parents about their honey being stolen, because he's been talking to humans. Yes, human girlfriend. And they make out. We do not. You wish you could. Like, okay, I'll admit that part is kind of funny. I'm not going to lie. And then, of course, so Barry goes back to express his gratitude to Vanessa and ends up breaking the bee law, talks to her, and they develop a close friendship. And at borders on attraction, they spend more time together. And then when he tells Adam about this, he's horrified in breaking bee laws. This is over, and shows him and gives him a crumb of rum cape. This is not over, and basically to keep him quiet. And then later on that, and tells him he needs to start thinking bee. And then later that day, his parents reprimand him for not working and just laying in the pool. But then he swims under the honey pool to escape them. And then pretty much he imagines him and Vanessa on a picnic, and then randomly imagines this Final Destination scenario happening when she's on this whole little plane. And that, which really just comes out of nowhere and just feels so random. Like, why are we referencing Final Destination in a kid's film? I'm pretty sure that's not a kid's franchise. So then he and Vanessa hang out some more, and they go to a grocery store where this one employee whacks Barry with a magazine. What's wrong with you? It's a bug. Well, he's not bothering anybody. Get out of here, you creep. And then pretty much hits the employee with the magazine. But honestly, I can kind of understand why that employee would probably hit Barry with a magazine, because he is a bug, and bugs probably have a lot of outside germs on them. And imagine a bug landing on produce and veggies in the store. and stuff that could probably contaminate the food. So you can see why he's probably trying to protect the stuff from getting all that in a way, or try to prevent someone getting stunned in the store, maybe. But either way, like when this scene goes on, then Barry discovers all the honey being sold. One of them is this brand called Ray Liotta Private Select, and also R.I.P. Ray Liotta, but if that was an actual honey brand, I wish it was. I would probably, if that was a real honey brand, I'd probably buy it. I would. I'm not gonna lie. Then of course he finds out from that same employee that hit him with a magazine earlier that one of the brand's honey farms supplies a grocery store with the honey they're selling. And so he goes off to honey farms. And while there, he meets this mosquito voiced by Chris Rock, who I will admit I wish was in the movie a little more, because even he was somewhat of an interesting character. But he's only in this scene and then comes back at the end. And he's not really in the movie much, so he does kind of feel useless to the plot, because he doesn't really contribute anything, and he's just there in that scene. And then after they chat a little bit and evade this car trying to throw them off, then he goes on an ambulance windshield, and then Barry then arrives on Honey Farms and sees that apparently the employees poorly treat the bees at their little work hives, and using bee smokers to kind of knock them out. So Barry decides this unrealistic concept, and if you're just mad about this treatment, instead of just sue the honey farms, he decides, I'll sue the whole human race and put an end to this. Which really makes no sense, because I don't think every human abuses bees. Like, some of them probably don't even abuse bees at all, so you can't sue the whole human race. That's another ridiculous part of the movie. This tries to have this unrealistic subplot of Barry suing the human race because their honey's being stolen, but the only people that are mistreating the bees are these honey farm workers, and that's about it. It's like, you don't see anybody else really mistreating any of the bees. So this subplot just feels weird. And another thing, like, if you try to sue the human race in real life, they just laugh in your face and they would reject your lawsuit application in minutes. So I don't know why Barry can't just sue the Honey Farms company instead. Why you can't just do that. Whatever, man. And another weird thing, Vanessa is a human, and she agrees to help. So this girl's basically suing herself. So, wow. You're helping a bee you have romantic feelings for by basically suing he's suing the human race, which is you. So you're suing your own self. And another thing, like, she's even further neglecting her boyfriend, because during this night when they're prepping the lawsuit at her store, she kicks him out during, apparently, what is this yogurt night they have as well, and pretty much now basically now it just keeps neglecting him more. And there is, I guess, one funny line he says, "Why is yogurt night so difficult?" Which, yeah, that is kind of... because, well, to be fair, Patrick Warburton's one of the better characters of the film, so some of his lines he says are actually funny. Like, there's some, as much as I feel bad for the guy, there are some scenes with him that are kind of funny, especially because he's one of the few actually normal characters of the film. But, oh yeah, and also apparently Adam's also helping them with the lawsuit, despite the fact that there's not a scene of him and Vanessa meeting at all. And he was apparently against Barry's friendship with Vanessa, but somehow that's next scene you see him after he reveals that Barry's talking to humans. He's literally with them helping the lawsuit, but apparently he ate all his cinnamon buns and fell asleep during the time when Barry was prepping all that. Then, Barry's mission then attracts attention from a lot of other bees and a lot of humans alike. And there's countless people that attend the trial once it kicks off. And I think the judge is voiced by Oprah Winfrey, or maybe I'm confusing with someone else or something. I think so. But then Barry is then up against John Goodman's character, this lawyer that's presenting all the honey companies he is suing, or the whole human race he's suing, apparently. And apparently, for some weird reason, the trial's first day apparently goes really well. And that's because even the judge and jury have no brain or no sanity, and they somehow just side with Barry right away. Like, and another reason about suing the human race. Why would there be a human jury if you're suing the human race? So the jury would be kind of suing themselves too. Like them and Vanessa too, because Vanessa's helping Barry with this despite that she's a human. Like, oh yeah, and how the first day goes is he has a few witnesses at the stand, and he's lecturing either Mr. Sting for having Sting as his name, who is a musician with a band called The Police. And there's this one bee worker that I don't think, we never saw him. Like, instead of seeing one of the people that were crap talking to bees at Honey Farms, it's some guy that you didn't even see crap talking to bees. Like, shouldn't this guy be one of the people that was crap talking to bees when they were pretty much lifting out the bee smoker? You know, when they call the bees pinheads, shouldn't it be one of, like, why couldn't it be one of those guys to make this somewhat more believable? But it's this random other beekeeper that you didn't see in the movie. And he's pretty much present Barry's lecturing for these like other three companies, and then of course comes the bear being an image for a jar of honey, and then to present why this is apparently a bad idea to Barry, Barry somehow is able to bring a live bear in a courtroom that somehow works well enough, and I don't know how he's able to do this because I'm pretty sure in courtrooms you're not allowed to bring wild animals in there. Because the bear's on a leash, but what if the bear broke off the leash? Wouldn't it probably, I don't know, attack and murder and probably kill all the humans in the room or something if provoked? Wouldn't it have done that? Because bears are not friendly creatures. When bears get pissed off, they can attack and kill you. So this makes no sense, but yeah, Barry is showing to present why bears are actually bad for a jar of honey, and then he says bears kill bees, which I guess, yeah, that's true, because bears do destroy beehives. That one part is true, but the point is, you can't bring a live animal in a courtroom, especially grizzly bears. And when like Barry and after like Barry tells the bear to stop and it's time for him to leave, like, okay, that's enough, take him away. Somehow the bear obeys him. Like, that's another moronic thing. Like, Barry, if you hate bears so much, why are you happily allowing a bear to come in a courtroom in the first place? If you don't like what bears do to you guys. And how is this bear apparently obeying Barry's instructions and just peacefully leaving? But then that happens, and then the Mr. Sting part happens. And then you get our third and final witness of the first day, Ray Liotta. When Barry does congratulate him for his win on ER, and then of course lectures him for using a brand honey, and then when Ray Liotta gets insulted by this, Barry then goes, this isn't a good fella, this is a bad fella, and Ray Liotta tries to squish him with his trophy. Why is it so hard to step on this creep, and we can all go home? Which I'm with him on that. Y'all thinking it, like, if I was in the courtroom, and I saw Ray Liotta trying to kill Barry, I would raise my hand saying I agree with him. And, like, I did like this scene, like, because I definitely liked hearing Ray Liotta, R.I.P. Ray Liotta. And when he's trying to kill Barry, I'm like, please quit the shit on Barry Benson. He's an annoying little shit. Like, I wish Ray Liotta killed him. I was like really begging for Ray Liotta to actually kill him in that moment. And so then of course, like, Barry then even causes more problems. Because you see some newspapers that apparently Ray Liotta's project that he was working on around the time this happened gets dumped over this. Barry has dinner with Vanessa. And then Ken shows up and has just had it. And especially after Barry pretty much causes champagne to spill in Ken's eye. And apparently that's supposed to be funny. he then is just about had it with him and Vanessa, spending time together, and also like Barry kind of ruining his life, and kind of ruining his relationship. And there's a scene where Vanessa's like, Barry's looking at your resume and he agrees with me that eating chopsticks not a special skill. So they basically roast talk the guy behind his back. And so Ken decides he's going to finally ambush Barry and try to kill him. And in this scene, I was actually cheering for Patrick Warburton to do the same thing as well. Because I honestly rooted for this. I honestly root for this guy more than Barry. And this guy, you can see why he hates Barry, because he's technically wrecking his life and wrecking his relationship. And the movie tries to make you see him as an asshole. But if supposed to some beast stealing your fiancé, you would be pretty pissed. I would. And of course, like after Ken kind of wrecks her bathroom, then Vanessa interferes on Ken's attempts, and this one line that does make me laugh. You know what? I don't even like honey. I don't eat it. And then of course when Vanessa tells he's the nicest bee I met in a long time. Long time? What are you talking about? Are there other bugs in your life? Like this scene, like he's just about really had it with this whole dream he's kind of living, and but then she basically breaks up with the poor guy that really is the final nail in the coffin. And this just further made me hate, and this now just made me hate Vanessa's character. Right there. Like, Vanessa was coming off as an unsympathetic girlfriend around that time because she ripped up Ken's brochure, shut off their yoga nights, and then had dinner with Barry behind Ken's back, and Rose talked his resume. And then, of course, she all mad at Ken for trying to kill him, but this bee was wrecking his life. And honestly, this bee was not really coming off as sympathetic. Because he's trying to soothe the entire human race instead of just the people mistreating the bees. And it's likely a bunch of humans that probably didn't even abuse any bees. Breaks bee laws. And some more stuff I'll get to later, but now, yeah, I'm not all for wanting reality in a lot of movies, because movies aren't supposed to be real all the time, but if it's corny stuff like this when it has no explanation, then I do get annoyed by this. And especially because you never know why the bees can talk to humans in the first place. And the writing is not even that good. And the jokes don't, and a lot of the jokes, some of them, or a majority of them, don't feel funny. And they don't feel fresh. And this is from a guy who worked on Seinfeld. You think they would do some fresh humor with this. But then the next day at the trial, John Goodman's character comes up with a backup plan to get the jury on his side, and he then decides to go on this whole rant about bees towards Barry, about either how his relationship with Vanessa is, or criticizing his parents not being his real parents because the queen is actually the real mother of all bees. And then Adam is offended by this and stings him in the rear end. But Montgomery wanted it, but John Goodman's character wanted this to happen. And so he pretends to he fake exaggerates the stinging so that he'll be the victim of an assault. And so Adam's actions do jeopardize the bee's credibility, and they almost jeopardize his life. But he recovers because in surgery he gets this toy sword for his new singer, with a bit of celery still on it from a sandwich. But it doesn't really do much, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure something like this would probably get you charged, and would probably shut off your lawsuit in quite quick. But they're still able to continue on with the lawsuit, and Adam is now apparently teaching the whole courthouse how to make paper boats while waiting for Barry Vanessa to come up with a smoker gun, because Barry realizes the smoker gun is their way to win their case. And then when John Goodman's character is just telling the poor courtroom that the bees have just wasted their time at this rate with their ridiculous lawsuit, which he is right about. But Barry shows up with the smoker gun and exposes the smoker gun's use. And of course, this gets Barry to win the trial. Quick. And the humans can never have their honey ever again. But John Goodman's character warns Barry, this is a prevalence against the balance of nature. You'll regret this. And you're going to see why he says that in a little bit. Because his words end up being true. And like you can see, even Adam actually does kind of wonder, what if Montgomery's right? John Goodman's character, by the way, and starts to wonder if he's probably kind of right about that. Like, we've been living this bee way of life 27 million years. It's like, you could tell producers didn't take their time to do the homework and research a lot of bees, because usually, like, beehive workers are all female, and what the males only do is to just reproduce with the queen. And so Barry wanting to be this pawn jock is really just feels like a pure unrealistic, corny fantasy. Like, and whenever the main character speaks, you feel annoyed because he's not interesting, and he's really this flying, walking, talking problem who actually either does stuff that would probably get him in trouble in real life. Like, nearly like him and Vanessa even do some stuff in the end to like fix their mistake illegally. And of course, like, those two are not interesting. Like, Adam Matthew Broderick's character was much more interesting than either of those two combined. In a way, like, that's why I wish he was the main character. And then, of course, so once Barry does win, what he does once he wins, he demands all the bee camps be shut down, which would never happen at all. And especially they get back all the honey from the stores off the shelves, and this is honey that's probably contaminated with a bunch of sugars or chemicals, so wouldn't some of those actually kill all the bees once it got to the hive? And because, remember, Dreamworks is rivals with Disney, so somehow they basically have this scene of him having this officer tranquilize Winnie the Pooh for eating honey. Why is somehow Winnie the Pooh in Manhattan? This scene makes no sense. It's just there to be a jab at Disney because DreamWorks is rivals with Disney. And this scene makes no sense either because Winnie the Pooh's not a real person. He's a fake character from a children's book series and a children's Disney series. He's not real. And it wasn't even a funny scene either. And then they arrest Mr. Sting over the fake name. And then, of course, then he has them arrest this woman in the shower for using a shampoo that has honey as an ingredient. And then even arrest and pretty much pin this old lady on the table for putting honey in her tea. And even hear like pleading that she can't even breathe. Like, that scene always bothered me as a child. Yeah. This character is so rootable. Now just basically having them attack random individuals that aren't even abusing bees only just using honey for certain stuff. Or invading the shampoo lady, basically breaking the shampoo lady's property. And then just randomly attacking an old lady for putting honey in her tea. Which is not even bee abuse. Wow, and yeah, this is such a great character. I love this character so much. But of course, when the honey gets returned, Hunex shuts down, and the pollen jogs abandon their job, and so they're out of a job now, and the world's flowers all start to die. And the last flowers on Earth get stockpiled in California for this Roses Parade that Vanessa dreamed about going to, and so Barry then realizes now what his actions are apparently now causing, which he really should have thought about before even doing this lawsuit. Adam is mad at him for costing him his job because he wanted to make honey. Vanessa is also mad because she runs a flower shop and it's closed down because all the flowers are dead. And she even goes, whose fault do you think that is? Yours too, because you were a part of this lawsuit, so you're not any more innocent. Yeah, she does say it's partly her fault, which it is. Like, it's both your faults. Like, you were a part of the lawsuit that was being pinned on your race. And so it's technically kind of your fault this all happened in the first place for even helping him. And you're no better. You basically cheated on your boyfriend. Like, ruined his life. You're not any better than Barry is. But But then Barry realizes where she's going, decides, we're going to go get these flowers back to this area. We'll go to California, we'll steal a float, and we'll get them back. So they basically break into a parade illegally. And of course, by basically stealing this float for Prince and the Pea, making the princess at fault leave the float, but Vanessa takes the ladder away and causes the actress playing the princess to fall off. And then they basically steal the float, and somehow they don't get arrested, and somehow the guy doesn't call the cops on them. But then, of course, once they get the flowers on the plane's captain explains that they're going to delay because of bad weather, but Barry tries to talk to them, but the pilots try to kill him when they see him because there's a bee in the cockpit, and they knock each other out, and so Vanessa now is able to somehow fly the plane with the bees' help because the bees all see this, and they go help Barry and Vanessa, and like that's the thing. Like, here's the thing, Vanessa. If you were pissed at Barry for costing your shop, why would you still help him? Same with you, Matt. Same with you, Adam. Like, even Adam shows up to help Barry land the plane, but this guy cost you your dream of working and making honey. So why would either of you two help him? This guy caused you guys problems. Another thing, I didn't really buy Barry feeling that bad for his actions. He clearly only felt bad because his moron human girlfriend got mad at him, and now realizing what an idiot he was for not thinking things through in the first place. Like another thing, like, yeah, they get the flowers back home to get the pollen from them, but they do it illegally. Because you can't steal a float, and because stealing a float is illegal, and you could go to jail for this thing. My God, like, so apparently this is where they're supposed to redeem themselves, but they still clearly commit a crime. So it's hard for them to even redeem themselves doing this then. But now we get on with the finale. It's like 45 minutes in. Let's end this. So after they get the flowers to home, Barry becomes a member of the Pollen Jocks, and they go to a flower patch, and they arm the pollen with the last flowers, and they reverse the damage Barry did, and they save the plants. The bees can do their honey again, and Barry runs a law firm at Vanessa's flower shop called Insects at Law, apparently helping a cow sue the human race now next, and then flies off of the Pollen Jocks and lets Chris Rock's character take over from there. So in a way, it ends all happily ever after. The honey gets sold to humans again, but only if it's bee approved. So, but wouldn't that mean? I don't know, Wouldn't the bee camps have to open again? So it goes more unrealistic, even having a random dairy cow in a lawyer office, and Kirkshaw's character ends up taking over, despite being a mosquito, and Adam can now be on the job he wants to do. No. What would be a better ending? Barry restores the flowers, but guess what? He still goes to jail on the counts of, endangering the human species, illegally breaking into a parade and stealing a float off private property, breaking and entering to bring back the flowers, helping Vanessa fly a plane unauthorized, putting people out of work just for doing their jobs, and probably wrecking their financial lives. Because Barry Vanessa technically committed some crimes in the film. It's like with Oscar and Shark Tale. Like, when he lied about killing that shark, and then pretty much used a bunch of brands, and when he pretty much admitted he lied, somehow he got rewarded for it, and somehow he got no real consequences that would have happened to him if that actually happened. Okay, look. B-movie has good qualities. Yes, it does. The good qualities are, I actually didn't mind Matthew Broderick's character. Like I said before, I wish Matthew Broderick's character was our main B character, because this character honestly felt much more likable than Barry did. Like, and I was kind of on his side sometimes, and even he kind of pointed out Barry's bad decisions a lot of times. Like, he actually seemed like a pretty decent, supportive friend. Like, I wish he was the main character instead. That would have been better. Patrick Warburton's character, well, I do feel bad for the guy. I mean, Patrick Warburton's character was kind of funny. He had some funny lines. They were some of the only funny lines of the film. And the animation is not bad, and the designs of the bees are not bad. I will admit that. And what else can I think of, man? What else? What else, man? I can't think of anything else because despite those, I think the movie still sucks. It's still awful. And you can just skip this. And I hate to say this, I kind of don't think Shrek the Third's as bad as this either, because at least with Shrek the Third, you can skip that film and just go to Forever After and just pretend it doesn't exist. That's not the case with this film or Shark Tale. So I think those two are worse than that film. So in the end, yeah, you can just avoid B-movie, watch any other better DreamWorks film than this, because this film has nothing funny, this film has nothing creative, this film is way too unrealistic, like bad kind of unrealistic. And yeah, many other those. Anyways, that's it for my rant on B-movie. We're gonna have a great B-movie. Here's how I'm gonna rank this movie. So overall, if you guys want to see a better DreamWorks movie, then definitely don't watch this because you won't get that with here, because there are plenty of other better DreamWorks movies to watch than this. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank B-movie, I'm going to give B-movie a 4 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my rant on B-movie, and I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think about B-movie, whether you like this movie or whether you hate this movie like I do. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this rant. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.